plead the first, American dream. I plead the first, white shirt, blue jeans. I plead the first, American dream. I plead the first, white shirt, blue jeans. I plead the first, American dream.
All right, guys, how are you doing? Welcome to I Plead the First. And as I promised on the Facebook page today, tonight's video is about Dr. Seuss. I honestly can say I never in my life thought I would be sitting here in my office making a video about Dr. Seuss. Didn't think it would happen. It's happened. So, with that being said, the reason I'm making the video is because one particular meme that was posted on our Facebook page got like ridiculous amounts of shares, and it's going up. And I guess you just never know what's going to resonate with people. So it's kind of crazy. I'm certainly happy that, hopefully our page is getting exposure, and through that, hopefully our YouTube page, our YouTube site gets exposure as well. But I just found it really interesting that this is what, out of all the things I've talked about, out of all the things I've posted on the Facebook page, this is the one that really resonated with people, and they really just were organically just sharing the crap out of this. So I thought, hey man, I have to at least make at least one video about this. If these people are so worried and so, well, I don't know if worried is the right word, if you are so engaged in this Dr. Seuss thing. So I went and I knew a little bit about what was being said. I hadn't done a lot of looking into it myself. It's just, there's so much stuff going on in the world that I kind of looked at it and, oh, they're canceling Dr. Seuss because he's racist. Okay, yeah, that checks. That's par for the course anymore. Just everybody's racist. So I didn't really look into it that much. I thought it was stupid. I dug into it, did some research, watched some news videos from different news agencies and some professors and different people weighing in on this, and I tried to go in with an open mind and really listen to what they were saying. After doing all that, I think I'm more hardline on this now than I was at the beginning of this. So let's just go ahead and start looking into this right now and breaking this down. So, first of all, I just want to be clear on what exactly is happening. They're not pulling all of Dr. Seuss's books. They're not completely, I don't know canceling. They're not unpersoning Dr. Seuss, if you will, but they kind of are. So 6 books out there that Dr. Seuss authored are the current publisher, the business that is in charge of his legacy, is what they've been saying in the news, has decided to pull 6 books from publishing. So they're not going to make any more of these books in the future. And they're saying that they're doing this to preserve Dr. Seuss's legacy. I can't even wrap my head around it. I'm trying to wrap my head around their thinking. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me at all. I tried to watch those videos, like I said, and they gave me a little bit of perspective where these people were coming from. And when I say these people, I mean the people that are saying Dr. Seuss is offensive. So, look, it comes down to, they're saying that some of the imagery in these Dr. Seuss books are offensive and racist imagery. We're going to get down to exactly what they're talking about here in just a second. And I'll show you the one that I've heard the most complaining about. They talk about a couple different ones in here. And I haven't really heard a lot about these other books. I had to go find which other books they were talking about. But the one I've heard a lot about is, and to think I saw it on Mulberry Street. And there's an Asian person portrayed in a conical hat holding chopsticks and eating from a bowl. And If I Ran to the Zoo, I've heard a couple times, includes a drawing of two barefooted African men wearing what appear to be grass skirts with their hair tied above their heads. So I think I don't even know. I'm not even going to call these people left or right. I am going to call them the political correctness police. What they're out to do is they're out to stop any stereotypes. But let's think about the purpose of the book. I don't have a copy of the book. Kind of wish I did, because I heard they're selling for like $4,000 on eBay right now. I've saw bits and pieces of it in videos. It seems like the point of the book is that you can see lots of different kinds of people from different cultures and lots of different crazy things right down on the street in your whatever town here in the United States or the UK or wherever the children that might be reading this book might be. Is kind of the point of it's tragically ironic that they're attacking this book, because first and foremost, I don't know if you're aware, but it was published in 1937. All right, so it's approaching 100 years old. To think that a book in 1937 was trying to kind of illustrate diversity is a pretty amazing thought, because I love diversity. I have no issues with true diversity. It's a great thing, because people that come from different backgrounds and different cultures have different thought patterns, and they bring those thought patterns to a team, and they can help you succeed, right? Like, that's just what it comes down to. Diversity is nearly 100% of the time a good thing. You would have to really, really, really dig and think about when diversity would not be a good thing. But I'm afraid what's going on is people are going to start hearing the word diversity and start to cringe. And you may have already done that right now when I started saying diversity, which is a shame, because there's nothing wrong with diversity. What's wrong is people trying to hijack that word to push their own crazy agendas. But anyway, back to the book. 1937, to think that back in 1937, a children's author was writing a book kind of illustrating all the different diversity and different people and different cultures and things like that, is pretty amazing, well ahead of his time. Let's look at the picture here so you guys can see what they're up in a roar about. That's the picture. It's obviously an Asian person, Asian man, dressed in a cartoony version of some sort of traditional garb, eating, some unidentifiable food with chopsticks and a conical hat. That hat, that's what got him. But what's crazy to me is you got to think where the artist was at with this picture. Why did he draw that? Did he sit down and draw that because he's like, oh, this will be funny? No, he's sitting there and he's having a thought process, and he's like, okay, what's the book about? The book is to try to show kids that there's different people with different cultures that come from different places and they do things differently. So how are you going to illustrate all of that, all of what is culturally different about an Asian person in one little cartoon? Well, you're going to have to put on the different garbs and clothes that come from Asia, and there's a lot of different ones, and you can't capture them all certainly in one little cartoon, but they tried to catch a couple different vibes there, it looks like. Primarily Chinese, but there's some different stuff going on there. And then, what's the biggest different thing for a kid, especially a kid in 1937, is, oh my gosh, I go to a Chinese restaurant, I see Chinese people there, and they eat with sticks. That's crazy. We weren't as open. There's no internet in 1937. Your town may or may not have a Chinese restaurant in 1937. So you're a 12-year-old kid, your parents take you maybe to the big city, maybe you're from a little town, you go to the big city, you go to a Chinese restaurant, it's maybe your first time in a Chinese restaurant, you're seeing chopsticks, you have all these questions in your mind, and you're trying to conceptualize and kind of put everything in order in your mind. And I think that's what the intention of this book was, is like, these kids are going down to a town, they're going to see all these new things and all these strange things that they've never seen before. You probably need context for all that. So I think the book was honestly an attempt to contextualize all the differences in cultures. And the irony of that is amazing to me, because now the book is essentially being pulled as an offensive thing when it really was probably, I can't speak for a dead man. Probably the intention was to educate children on cultural diversity, and now it's being pulled in the name of cultural diversity. So the book, obviously, I watched one news channel that felt the need to tell you that, hey, look, there's a difference between censorship and, what did they call it? They had a buzzword for it that you may start to hear. Realignment, I believe was the word. There's a difference between realignment and censorship. We're not pulling the books from, we're not going to outlaw the book. We're just not going to print it anymore. Okay, and books stop getting published for a variety of reasons. It's not that unusual for a book to just stop being published. But for it to be for such a silly reason, because somebody got butthurt about this. Look, man, the book was written in 1937. The world is a very different place. And I'm not saying racism becomes okay when it's old. What I'm saying is that you got to put yourself in the place of the author and in the time of the author and try to think of, what were his intentions? Were his intentions to belittle an Asian person for their differences? To me, that image that we're seeing on the screen right now says nothing of that. It really doesn't. And there's a poll here. I haven't taken it. Let's see if that'll give us results. I don't know. I don't see the poll. It was just something I clicked on because I wanted to see that image and show you guys. There's no poll here. I would have taken it if there was. Anyway, it's kind of dumb. Sounds like the same thing with the African people, is just him trying to show and illustrate the differences of people and cultures. Is it a little bit stereotypical? Yeah, I think it's going to have to be, but almost by definition, because you're trying to illustrate all the differences of a culture in one tiny little cartoon. So are you going to show many of the things that are stereotypically Asian or stereotypically African? Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's what you're going to have to do. I think, if you wanted to show, I don't know, if you wanted to draw a cartoon of a stereotypical American in 1937, what would you draw? I don't know, maybe some guy running around, probably a white guy with a ball cap and a baseball and, probably a baseball glove on. And I mean, you guys get where I'm going with this. You know, does that become offensive to white people? Well, we don't all play baseball. Come on, man. In 1937, baseball was America's pastime. So I think if you were going to do a cartoon illustrating American culture, you probably couldn't do one without drawing something about baseball to catch, oh, he's American. Really frustrating. And then one of my friends brought up another point, and I'll wrap up after this because the video is getting a little long. This is art. This is unquestionably, it's artwork. And I think it's really dangerous to start labeling artwork as offensive. I think it has to be pretty far over the line before we start pulling artwork for being offensive. You know, I mean, really far over the line, to be honest. But my friend brought up a good point. It's okay out there and I love, first of all, let me say this. I love music. I love hip-hop music. I love all kinds of music. I listen to all kinds of crazy stuff. I'm sure you guys have noticed that all the songs here on the channel are like hip-hop and R&B and that type of stuff. I love that kind of music. I also love country music. I also love jazz. I love a variety of music. But in hip-hop, it's okay for a person to drop the N-bomb like 19 times or 27 times in a song and make millions of dollars off of it, and it's just art. Or they can say, let's take it a step further, you know, they can say that they're doing violence to women, or they can say all kinds of crazy stuff in a rap song, that they're selling drugs and they're doing all this crazy stuff. And the defense has always been, well, it's art. It's art. It's art. And I agree. It is art. Let it be. But if you're going to use that same thing, you can't start going back and erasing old art because it doesn't fit your modern narrative. If you're really that offended by these books as a publisher, then why are you just ceasing publication? Why not just have them re-illustrated in a way that you find more modernly appropriate and leave the literature there? Because the literature is, there's nothing racist about it. Nobody's even made that accusation. The only accusation is about the artwork, and I find it to be kind of a weak accusation. I could see, I believe that there are people that are out there that are offended by this picture. Does that make them right? Just because you're offended, you're right? That's not what that means, man. And nobody promised you wouldn't go out today and be offended. Nobody promised you that. I'm going to end with this message. If you show me real racism, if you show me real hate, I will stand up and I will fight with you against that hate. But I'm done with this bullshit. Don't bring this shit to me. As far as, you know, this is offensive, this is racist, this is that. Everything is not racist. The other day I was talking to one of my buddies. He was accusing yet another conservative of being racist. And the thought crossed my mind, but I just left it alone because I was kind of done with the conversation. But the question is there any conservative that hasn't been accused of being racist? Like, eventually, this is the boy that cried wolf. And it loses its intensity. It loses its meaning and its value of labeling people racist all the time. Like, it just doesn't mean anything anymore. It just doesn't. So, hey, all you guys out there, I love all people. I do not hate any one kind of person. There's plenty of people I hate, but that has nothing to do with any group that they belong to other than terrorists. But I'm just done with the whole, oh, that's racist, this is racist, that's racist. I'm done with it. I'm done with it. Show me real hate, show me racism. I'll go fight with you. Anyway, that's our Wednesday night episode. I went on a bit of a rant there, but there was a lot of emotion today on Facebook about this Dr. Seuss stuff, and there you go. So have a good night. Like, share, subscribe, keep sharing the channel, keep growing the channel so we can do big things. Have a good one.
I could really use a change of scenery. Yeah. Everybody smoking all the greenery. Yeah. Close the match 'cause they were handed down to me. But I'm still fly, I know. I'm still fly, let's go.